We have your weekend Apple news. Welcome back to the channel. It's the weekend, and what do we do on the weekends? We go through the Apple news. I'm going to go through about 15 different news stories today. This one's a little bit shorter because we got all those sales coming up next week I'm getting ready for. I'm going to post a whole bunch of videos on there. Anyways, I also have some tech sales I throw in this video. On top of it, I have a beer usually on the weekends. Anyways, sit back and relax. It's all about having fun on the weekends. Let's get into the Apple news. All right, story number one. Now, we've talked about this a few times. I'm just going to do a quick recap here, but there's going to be one glaring omission from this list I'm going to show you, and then we're going to kind of follow up and talk about that omission. Right over here, Mac Rumors. It says Apple's 2026 Mac plans, all right? Most of Apple's Macs are slated to get M5 chips across 2026. That's unfortunate because we were hoping they would come this year, right? It looks like 2026. You can see the article here from Mac Rumors. So if you kind of scroll down, so obviously the very first one's the MacBook Air, early 2026. I think this is going to be basically March, April timeframe is what we're thinking. That should be cool. And obviously I'm going to probably hopefully get one of those to test them out. So that's going to be the obviously the M5 MacBook Air. The next one's got me really excited over here. This is the low-cost MacBook, all right? Early 2026, Apple's going to release a new low-cost MacBook in 2026 that's cheaper than $999 MacBook Air. Well, it's got to be a lot cheaper, right? For that to be successful, I'm excited about it for sure. It has to have two things. It has to have a 12-inch screen, and it also has to be $599 or less. That's what I think. If it's $699, $799, the MacBook Air is selling right now for $750. People have gotten used to that price point. I don't see them spending that much unless it's smaller. That's got to be what the key difference is, because we're going to talk about this in a second. We'll come back to that in a second. All right, let's keep scrolling down. So MacBook Pros, you're going to say early 2026, but didn't we just get that? No, we got the base level. We're talking the M5 Pro and the M5 Max chips. That's going to be early 2026, probably combined over with that MacBook Air. So those are all going to come at once. All right. This next one, Mac displays, early to mid 2026. This has got me super excited. Early, possibly here. Apple hasn't released new displays since the Studio display in 2022. So what's that, going on 3 or 4 years? So we're going to get two of these displays, we think. One's going to be the cheaper version. We don't know if it's 32 inches yet. Maybe 6K, and then we're going to probably get like an 8K version or something, some crazy version that's going to be, again, you need to take a mortgage out in your house, so don't worry about that one. Though the thing is hopefully they can get the actual Studio display. Maybe they keep selling the Studio display, the one that's out now, but make that like $999. That would be a great thing for a lot of people, right? All right, let's keep moving. So the Mac Mini, this is the one I'm waiting for, mid-2026. We talked about this before. It got pushed back for some reason. Why? We all love it, right? But people don't buy it that much. They just don't, so that's why. All right, here we go. The Mac Studio, and this is where it's a little odd here, right? It says Mac Studio, mid-2026. And again, why is this getting pushed back as well? We don't know, but it's going to be obviously it's going to be launching with the Mac Mini. People are waiting for this thing because this thing has got to take the place of something else, all right? And we're going to talk about that. But this is going to be a beast, right? It's going to have the M5 Ultra, we think, in here. And that's going to be a huge step up because they're not, obviously the M5 Ultra is an incredible chip. They only came out with the M3 Ultra chip just recently. They skipped the M4. So we're going to see about this thing. The OLED MacBook Pro, they're even talking about this now, late 2026. So obviously we talked about the M5s coming out, but the M6s are going to come out later in the year. And that's going to be really late, probably November 2026, possibly with OLEDs. Mac Pro right here, timing unknown. And we're going to come right back to this, all right? This is the one that's got me a little worried. This is the big omission here. And then we're going to scroll down, iMac as well, timing and status unknown. That's got me a little worried too. We're going to talk about that, but also, we hope we get a bigger version. I don't think it's coming. I think it's just going to be an upgrade on the chip. We'll see. But the Mac Pro, so what's going on here? Look at this over here. So this is actually coming out right now, Mac Rumors. It just came out a couple days ago or a day ago. It says Mac Pro reportedly on back burner and largely written off at Apple. Here's the glaring omission, all right? We may be missing or actually getting rid of one of the actual models here. At least we don't think we're going to be getting an M5 on this. At least that's the rumor as of right now. Apple's high-end Mac Pro desktop computer is currently on the back burner according to the latest word from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. And he usually gets some good inside information on this, all right? Gurman has heard that Apple has largely written off the Mac Pro, with the sentiment inside the company being that the Mac Studio represents the present and future of Apple's computing. And we've talked about this before, right? Put in the comments, do you agree? Do you even see a future for the Mac Pro? I didn't personally. I think this is a good idea from them. It just muddies the water too much for them. And the Studio is going to be good enough with that M5 Ultra chip. It's going to be off the charts. All right, the next thing I wanted to talk about, they're actually a sponsor in this video, but it's actually sitting in my hand right here. And I'm going to show you some close-ups as I'm talking about this thing. This thing is really cool. Now, I've done a whole bunch of different videos about all different, SSD enclosures on my channel. Well, here's a new one by Qwiizlab, and this is actually an 80 gigabit per second enclosure right here. Connects to Thunderbolt 5. It can go backwards compatible to Thunderbolt 4 and stuff like that. You're going to get slower speeds. But let me just tell you why I like this one so much. First of all, let's talk about the pricing. Take a look over here. So right now it's on Amazon, and you can see it's the Qwiizlab Fanless 80 gigabit per second NVMe enclosure with aluminum chassis. $189, usually $199. So overall, it's not really a bad price for, again, this is Thunderbolt 5. You have to add your own SSD in here as well. But take a look at this thing. First of all, this thing's made out of a huge solid block of aluminum. It's actually an attractive case, but it's also super heavy. But that's not, I mean, we've seen other ones like this before, right? But the reason I like this one is take a look on the inside of it. There's a massive slab of copper in here. See it in there? And it does a really, really good job of dissipating the heat. So in the box, obviously, here's the box here. I'll show you a close up of the box as well, but it does come with a Thunderbolt 5 cable in the box. It comes with like a little sleeve here that you can actually put it in. It comes with a screwdriver. It comes with some thermal pad. The thermal pad should actually go into the on top of the SSD, which actually connects it to that copper plate. And actually all the heat gets moved down to the bottom. It actually stays really cool. And I actually like this thing. And you're going to ask, well, does it perform, right? Well, first of all, take a look at this thing here. So this is pretty crazy. Now I'm using actually a Samsung 990 Evo Plus, all right? This is not even the fastest drive they make, and I was getting close to 5,700 megabytes per second on the reads and the writes, as you can see here. Really, really fast drive. Also, here's an example right here of me moving. I think this was like just shy of 30 gigabytes, all right? Look how fast it can move 30 gigabytes basically here. It just takes a few seconds. It's actually incredible how fast this thing can work. And how many times are you going to move 30 gigabytes at once? I know there's big transfers of terabytes and stuff. This can do it. Here's some of the, the drives that are compatible with it down over here. And you can see that I actually used, somewhere in here I'll find it, my Samsung is in here listed right over here, the Evo Plus right there. And like I said, I've seen other results where they're getting faster right here on the website over here on Amazon. They were able to get up to 6,000 megabytes per second. Anyways, again, check this out because the reason for it is that huge slab of copper on it. And the only negative that I found is you have to be a little bit careful when you open this up. There's no screws actually, it just pops open. But be a little careful because you can cut yourself on that copper. It's not, it's got a couple of sharp edges, so just be careful there. Other than that, I love the thing and it's super fast. So definitely check them out. I'll have links in the description. Thank you. Cheers, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. All right, for this next story, let's talk about this budget MacBook again, because I wanted to show you a couple things about this, all right? Over here, this is Apple Insider. Take a look. It says, where the rumored budget MacBook fits in Apple's lineup, all right? Now, obviously, this is the question about this, all right? If it's a smaller size, it's one thing, but if it's a 13-inch, just like the Air, what are we talking about? Okay, so we have Geekbench single-core benchmarks here, and if we take a look at everything, here's the A18 Pro right here. We're hoping for the A19 Pro, but even if it is this chip, look at this difference. So it's 3250 and single-core for Geekbench 6. And look at it, kills the M1 here. Look at that difference there. Now here's the M4 down here, and it's not that far off of the M4 chip. Now that's only single core, right? That's going to be, but still, most people are doing, I would say most people just use single core. Let's just be honest. These are the average users. Now when we get into Geekbench multi-core, this is going to be more advanced stuff like 3D modeling and stuff like that. Obviously, take a look over here. It's going to be a little bit slower than the M1. We can see that right here. And, half as fast as the M4. This is going to be the big issue here. Granted, this could be the A19 Pro. It would probably bump it up to somewhere around in here, a little bit faster than the M1. And I think that's what might be coming. We just don't know yet. But anyways, even if it stays here, for most people, the M1 is perfectly capable of actually, doing some video editing, doing some light kind of work like that. But it comes down to the RAM. Is this going to have enough RAM in it? We just don't know. But for graphics, it's going to probably hold its own. So we go down here. Here's Geekbench Metal Benchmarks. Take a look. Here's the A18 Pro chip. 32300. It actually beats the M1. See this? And then basically, obviously, here's the M4 quite a bit further out. So it's going to be very similar in Geekbench Metal scores, which is obviously kind of their pseudo graphics type scores from Apple. But still, plenty fast to do some just really basic stuff. But it's that price, right? And it's the RAM. Those are the two factors that we have to find out about. If it only comes with 8, we're in trouble. If it's going to be $700, we're in trouble. If it's $599, thumbs up. If it's 12 inches, thumbs up. And if we can get 16 gigs of RAM on it, somehow if they can kind of get that on this kind of a chip, because right now I don't think it's possible, they might do something with the laptop, double thumbs up. Okay, so the M5 chip just came out with the MacBook Pro. We saw that. Now, the M4 chip obviously was just like a short, maybe like less than a year ago, right? And they're claiming this is so much faster. The M5 chip is on LLMs and running stuff like that over the M4. Well, Apple came out with some numbers that could actually surprise you a little bit. Take a look over here, 9 to 5 Mac. It says Apple shows how much faster the M5 runs local LLMs compared to the M4. Now, before I get into this, everyone always keeps telling me that they're running local LLMs, right? And I understand people that watch my channel do, but I think I read it's 2% of the population that's doing this. 2% of people out there, which you're obviously watching Apple videos, that's all that do this, all right? So don't get too excited. We all like to look at this stuff and it's like, oh my God, it's so cool, but nobody does it. All right, so let's take a look over here. Here are the results over here. So time to first token, this is called TTFT. It's the way that Apple is kind of measuring this, but the gray basically is the M4, the M5 is this blue button, the little blue circle or the blue color, and this is time. So obviously the longer time here in seconds over here is obviously worse because you want things to become faster. So, I mean, it's really hard to see down here because I have to zoom in here, but this is going to be like these Qwen tests. These are going to be running these local LLM tests. Don't worry too much about them. There's a couple good channels out there that actually go over this quite a bit. But long story short, look at the difference here. I mean, this is about, it looks like it's 4 times as fast here, right here, because this is obviously smaller by 4 times. Again, this is at least 3 or 4 times as well, 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4. I mean, we're talking, big step up here, all right? And we can go ahead and see over here, same thing when you actually take a look over here. So long story short, I mean, this is the chart you want to see. It's very, very impressive. And this is from Apple. I mean, this is exactly what they're showing, this big leap in just one basic generation is what it all comes down to. And moving forward, I don't think you're going to get this kind of same jump between the M5 and the M6 because Apple did something different here. They actually put those I guess they're called AI accelerators inside the chip and all that stuff, and that's going to continue through. But still, really impressive. So you can really expect if you're running local LMs, based off of Apple stats here, like 3 to 4 times faster as far as the time, or at least quicker as far as time, and that's actually pretty impressive. Okay, with Black Friday coming up, and check out my channel next week. I'm going to do a couple of videos on that. Anyways, with that coming up, there's some good things to note about Apple. They have a couple basically discounts over Black Friday. So take a look over here, Mac Rumors. Apple announces 2025 Black Friday event. Here's what you can get. So Apple's annual 4-day Black Friday through Cyber Monday event is returning on Friday, November 28th through Monday, December 1. You can see right here for all these different countries, including the United States, Canada, Australia. You get the idea. Definitely you can pause it there. So I'm going to kind of scroll down. It says, during the shopping event, customers can get Apple gift cards with the purchase of any eligible product in the Apple Store or in the Apple App Store or the Apple.com. However, the gift can only be used towards future purchases, and higher immediate discounts on Apple products are usually available on Amazon. And that's true, right? But why would you want to use? So if you're one of those people that want to buy directly from Apple just for whatever reason you have, you want to be one, that's the kind of person you are, that's fine. They're going to give you kind of a bone here. So the 28th, remember, through the 1st of December. Let's kind of scroll down over here. Right over here. So if you get Apple, you get a $25 gift card if you buy any of these products like the Apple AirPods 4, Beats Pill, Apple Pencil, stuff like that. And you can pause this. I'm not going to go through all this. You get $50 card here for buying the iPhone 16e. That's $50 off that phone. That's not bad. Well, it's on your next purchase. I'm sorry, it's not off that phone. You get the idea, but you get all these other things, including the watch and stuff like that. But let's get down to some of these little bigger areas down here. Here's $75 off on the iPhone 16, not off. I keep saying off. It's a gift card. $100 gift card here. The Mac Mini. So obviously, if you spend $499, you'd probably spend $599 through them unless you have the student discount, right? So you'd end up being at $499, but you would get that gift card for a later purchase. Maybe it's good. Maybe you can then tell your wife that you have the gift card and you got to go buy something else, all right? $150 gift card for the iMac. $175 gift card for the 13-inch MacBook Air, $200 gift card for the 15-inch MacBook Air. That's not bad. And then $250 gift card for the the 14-inch MacBook Pro. So you get the idea here. I mean, if you go ahead, let's just, for instance, say you bought the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and you wanted to get this $250 gift card. I mean, that's going to be basically like a free, earbuds or free, when you go back in, you can go and use that towards like a watch or something. So you get something, you're going to get some extra stuff with it for sure. Not a bad idea. Just something to note there. I wanted to kind of go over it so you knew about it. Okay, so I have the 11th gen iPad somewhere around here. I show it to you all the time. Anyways, long story short, the 12th gen's coming out. They think, again, next year, obviously. We think it's coming fairly soon. We just don't know exactly when. But what is it going to have? Is it going to be worth waiting for that, or should you pick up a sale like during Black Friday on the 11th gen? Again, this is kind of the base iPad. Let's take a look. Mac Rumors, 12th generation iPad, release date, specs, and everything we know about Apple's 2026 budget tablet. So we can go ahead and see a picture of it here. So we're going to just scroll down here really quickly. The very first thing you see in here is design. There are no rumors for an updated design for the 12th generation iPad, so it will likely have the same 11-inch edge-to-edge display. So we don't think anything's changing on the design. We do think some different colors might come in here. Obviously, the current ones are blue, pink, silver, and yellow. They could have a couple different shades of color. That's about all we're thinking on a design. We'll report that too once we find out more. The other thing in here is basically the CPU here. So it says rumors suggest that the low-cost iPad will use Apple's A18 chip, which is the chip that Apple used for the iPhone 16e and 16 and the iPhone 16 Plus right there. It is a 3nm process that will offer speed and efficiency improvements over the A16 chip. So just in case you're wondering about it, we're on currently the A16 and we will go to the A18. So it's going to be kind of a 2-generation jump there, which is not bad considering it's only a 1-generation jump in the iPad. That's not bad, right? Since we had one, I mean, it was about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer it's going to be when this comes out, but still not a bad jump there. A couple other things in here just to note. It's going to have the N1 chip here, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. That's actually going to be a good thing. We'll talk about that. It's going to have an Apple modem in here. Apple's designed the C1 and the C1X chips that have been used in the iPhones and the iPads. It's going to have the Apple, basically the modem and the chip. Those are going to be some differences there. But I mean, obviously the chip here, let me just see here. It's going to definitely indeed says Wi-Fi 7, so it should have Wi-Fi 7. Anyways, that's going to be all good news. The pricing over here looks like it's going to stay the same, starting at $349 as well. 120 gigs of storage isn't going to change as well, so that's all going to be the same. And it says iPad spring of 2026, so that's going to be also basically with the MacBook Airs and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, the question really comes down to, should you wait for this? Well, I mean, it's going to be better for sure. It's going to be the same cost. If you can get a really killer deal on one of them right now for the actual version, the 11th gen, and at the end of the day, you need it right now for a Christmas present or something, I would just get that. It's not going to be a massive, massive difference here, even though it's going to have some of those new kind of technologies. Most people don't even have a Wi-Fi 7 router. So overall, I would say if you can wait. But if you can't, don't worry about it. Just buy it, and you're going to be super happy. The 11th gen is perfect. I have it. I use it every day. Okay, but you got a couple of tech sales now. I'm not going to go through a whole bunch because I have a whole bunch. I did a video. My last video was all about the kind of early Prime deals. I'm going to be doing some Prime videos next week, so I don't have a lot here. But let's take a look. This is not the best deal, but it's not bad. This is the 2024 Mac Mini here. What's different about this one? Well, this has got the 24 gigs of RAM and 512 gigabyte SSD. This is the configuration that I probably would recommend buying if you can swing it. So right now it's only $869, usually about $1,000. So look at that. It's about $130 off or something. 13% off. Not bad at all. I mean, this is the kind of configuration. 24 gigs is good for everything. It's a sweet spot like we talked about. And 512 is the minimum I really would go on these things if you plan on using this long term. I know with things like this thing in my hand over here, this little storage device by Qwiizlab, obviously that's going to be, something that you could pick up always, and always you should. But still, 512 on board I think is really good for the minimum. But let's keep moving. The next one over here is a question I have to ask you. So here's another sale right over here. Here's the Apple 2025. This is the M5 chip. So this is going to be the newest MacBook Pro with the M5 chip. The difference here is it's got the standard 16 gigs, but it gives you a 1 terabyte SSD storage here, 1642, usually $1,800. So you can see 9% off. Now, what I want to do is a shout out to this because like a lot of people complain about the memory being, or actually, let me just see here, the storage being too expensive, right? Well, take a look here. You can actually go in here and look at it and you can say, well, geez, I'm getting the extra 512 for only $50 because the normal price of this, obviously if you're adding it, the normal price is $17.99, but the base level here is only $15.99. So for $16.42, you're getting an additional 512. And I guess the question is the problem that Apple does too is that you can get these for these deals, but realistically then, you can get the base level, they drop it so much. Sometimes they drop it to $12.99 or something, and then you're like, geez, now I'm really stuck. But if it just stayed at the $15.99, this thing would be a lot easier to pick up for $16.42 because you're getting a better deal. But when they drop the other one to $12.99, it just makes it so difficult. And that brings up this third one over here because I wanted to show this to you. So currently over here, this is going to be a B&H over here. They do have, this is the M4 chip, right? The MacBook Pro base level. And look at, they had it drop down to $12.99. holiday savings of $300, usually $15.99. But this is only the M4, not the M5. So here's the question to everybody out there. Would you pick this up for $12.99 right now? Or would you pick up the M5? I think you can get the M5 standard with just the standard, this one's only got, 16 gigs, 512 gigabyte. You can get that for, I think right now, like 14 something, somewhere in that range, like 1470. So would you get that for $14.70 or this for $12.99? That's the question. I mean, it's only like $150 difference. This is what Apple loves to do to you, and you just don't know what to get. So you just got to make your best decision. People ask me all the time, what should I get? And I just say, it's up to you. They're very, very close. Okay, this next one might be a surprise to a lot of people that followed Apple but haven't followed them recently. Over here, Mac Rumors, it says Apple loses a top executive as Jeff Williams officially retires. So everyone should know Jeff Williams. He's been with Apple forever. Apple executive Jeff Williams has retired after working for the company for 25 years. Apple removed Williams from its leadership page on Friday, although realistically this is a couple days ago, so maybe it was about a week ago, which was his final day according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. Williams joined Apple in 1998 and promoted the Chief Operations Officer, COO, since 2015. So he's leaving, all right? There's a lot of shakeups. Apple's losing a lot of designers. They're losing a lot of AI people. Now they're losing a lot of their heads, basically. And we're going to have to see how this actually changes everything. So if you thought that was bad enough, all right? I mean, maybe people will be happy about this. I don't know. But look what else is coming. Maybe within a year, right over here. Take a look. This is Mac Rumors as well. Tim Cook to step down as Apple's CEO as soon as next year. Apple's preparing for Tim Cook to step down as CEO of the company as soon as next year, according to the Financial Times. And there's a nice picture of him right there. We're going to kind of scroll down here. It says, the company's board of directors and senior executives recently intensified preparations for Cook to hand over the reins, the report said. While the report said that Apple is unlikely to name a new CEO before its next earnings report in late January, it went on to explain that the announcement early in the year would allow for a smooth leadership transition ahead of Apple's annual developers conference in June. So this is coming up pretty fast, right? Now, who's actually going to replace him? They say right here, Apple's Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering, John Tannerius, right over down here, is widely viewed as Cook's most likely successor, although we don't know for sure when the time comes. Now, they're saying that Cook actually, I think he just turned 65. That's usually, like I said, he's obviously okay for retirement now. He's under like his retirement age. But he might stick around as kind of on the board of directors. I think they can do it for like another 10 years by law or some. There's some kind of thing that Apple has like written in there. So he might just be on the board for 10 years and still be a voice there. I can't see him fully retiring. But him, and then obviously Williams, and then all of these AI people, they're getting shuffled around quite a bit. So we're going to have to see how all that stuff plays out. And, if Apple can continue its dominance, with making so much money. Okay, on my channel, we talk about Macs all the time, and Mac OS 26.2, it's got 3 different changes coming. We talked about 2 of them before, but one of them is quite different, and I want to talk about it right here and see what you think about it. Right over here, 9 to 5 Mac. It says Mac OS 26.2 adds 3 new Mac features. Here's what's coming. And I'm just going to scroll down here. We talked about this first one, obviously, I think my last video, Edge Light for video calls. Obviously, Mac's rolling out this Edge lighting here. You can see it. It lights up your screen almost like a kind of one of those Edge lights that, let's just say you're going to be on Zoom or a chat call or something like that. It'll actually put a light around the screen, shine some brightness on you to actually make the video look better, right? That's really cool. So it's almost like a synthetic light that lights up your screen to make you kind of a little bit brighter. That's pretty good, right? Now, I'm not going to skip. I'm going to go down to the third one first, and then I'm going to go to the one that we don't really know about. So number 3 was urgent reminders. We talked about this as well. So they're adding a feature here. When you set up a reminder, you can actually make it urgent so that if you miss the reminder, it'll actually make an alarm on your MacBook or your phone. It'll go to your phone. So it'll make an alarm, actually. So it'll go off like an alarm clock. So you don't forget that, reminder if it's urgent. So that's going to be a new thing that they're adding with a little tab. But this third thing is the crazy thing, and this has got me kind of excited. Tell me what you think about this, all right? Let me see if I can find it in here. So it's right here. Number 2, actually, I call it the third thing, but it's number 2 in this list. Thunderbolt 5 powered Mac clusters. And you can see a picture over here of a studio. So let's scroll down and see what this means. Apple reportedly has no plans to ship a new Mac Pro. We just talked about that. But as my colleague Ben notes, there's an adequate software alternative coming to pros thanks to the Mac OS 26.2, all right? So we're just going to scroll down here. So it says Apple's introducing a new low latency feature that lets you connect several Macs together using Thunderbolt 5. For developers and researchers, it's potentially useful way to create AI supercomputers that can run massive local models. That allows 4 Mac Studios, which can each run up to 512 gigabytes of unified memory to run 1 trillion parameter Kimi K2 thinking model as far as efficiency with PCs with power-hungry GPUs. So look at that. That's pretty crazy. And he says, well, I've seen Thunderbolt Mac clusters before. They were limited by slower Thunderbolt speeds, especially they require a hub, and that can reduce speeds to 10 gigabit per second. Apple's new feature allows for full Thunderbolt 5 connectivity to allow for 80 gigabit per second. The clustering capability also isn't just limited to pricey Mac Studio. It will also work with M4 Mac Pro, Mac Minis, M4 Pro and Macs, and MacBook Pros. Developers won't need any special hardware. All right. So if you're running local LLMs and you want to create a cluster, it's going to be coming here with some software updates. And you know, obviously, like I said, you can kind of do that. We've seen some videos on it, but now you're going to get the full force of 80 gigabit per second Thunderbolt 5, and we're going to see how fast these things are capable of. So again, this is affecting such a small percentage because how many people are going to buy 2 Mac Studios, 4 Mac Minis? Almost nobody. But I guess for organizations that do this for a living, obviously, it can make a big difference. Cheers, everyone. Okay, this next feature is going to affect me, actually, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. Well, let me just tell you now. I actually use a Google phone, believe it or not, and I use an iPhone. I use them both combined. I love the camera on the Google phone. So what is this going to affect me? Right over here. It says right here, Apple Insider. Android Quick Share on Pixel 10 can airdrop to iPhones now. See this? So here's a Pixel phone, here's an iPhone. We all know about airdrop. It's obviously usually proprietary to Apple. Well, Google Pixel 10s now has a feature that allows this to happen, and they actually programmed it into the phone. So hold on one sec, right over here. Mac Rumors, it says, will Apple kill Google's surprise Android to iPhone airdrop feature here? Earlier today, Google made a surprise announcement that the Quick Share file transfer feature on Pixel 10 smartphones was able to work with AirDrop. Can believe that or not, enabling first-party file sharing between Android devices, and we just talked about that. But it says, will it kill it? Now, I was thinking about this. What does that mean? Why would they kill it? Well, there's a history of this. Take a look. It goes on to say that Google says that it is using its own implementation, and Apple's take on it is unclear. Apple has not historically supported third-party workarounds, basically between the iPhone and Android devices, and it continually worked to put a stop to an iMessage for Android feature that Beeper attempted in 2023. The Beeper situation does seem to have some parallels with Google's AirDrop move. Beeper reverse engineers Apple's iMessage protocols and encryption using Apple's iMessage servers to allow users to send basically blue bubble messages to iPhone users. Apple was basically able to successfully shut down Beeper's messaging solution. So Google's a much bigger company than Beeper, and now that they're actually working together, I read through the article, now that, you know, Google's kind of got them over the barrel saying, you're going to be using our AI, right? So maybe you shouldn't push too hard on this, although Apple usually does. We'll see how this kind of turns out, but I hope this stays there because why not, right? Even if you have somebody that you want to transfer to that doesn't have an Apple phone, this will give us an opportunity to do that, and it's all good. Okay, for this next one, we all know how much money Apple makes, and but how much per employee do they make? That's just kind of a cool, kind of a little figure you want to know about. And are they the top? Well, let's take a look. 9 to 5 Mac. Apple generates $2.4 million per employee, but it's only third in the tech rankings. So they're not the highest, as we can see. I'll show you who is. But so what they're doing is, if you take everybody as far as their, the employees, and then how much do they make in revenue per employee? $2.4 million. Believe it or not, that's near the top, but it isn't the top. So we're going to kind of scroll down, and who is the top? So Apple ranks third among the tech giants. NVIDIA is double. Look at this, 4.4 million here. Pretty crazy. Netflix, 4.1 million. This surprised me here. But the reason for this is they actually they're making pretty good money, but they have a lot less employees because obviously if you take a look at this, they're just streaming services, all right? So they don't have all these people that are working for them. And Apple has retail people as well. They have retail stores, which is all equates into this. Otherwise, Apple's numbers would be way up. So it says the key difference is that Apple has retail employees, which gives a larger workforce than companies without. The company has around 164,000 employees at Apple. Can you imagine that? So that's why we get these numbers here. Netflix has such a small amount compared to Apple that their numbers are kind of elevated, but still, these are some numbers. You want to be in that club, let's just put it that way. If you're a company, that's a good number to reach. Okay, maybe you have an iPhone 16 and you're thinking about buying an iPhone 17. Anyways, you're kind of wondering about Wi-Fi speeds. Did Wi-Fi speeds get better or worse? Well, there's a new study out on this. Let's take a look. Right over here, Mac Rumors. It says iPhone 17 versus iPhone 16 Wi-Fi speed tests. New study reveals the winner. Take a look. And we can see a little picture here. Obviously, we have some new modems in here and some new chips like the N1. So what does it do? It's actually pretty cool here. So N1 silicon is driving Wi-Fi gains across major markets. So this is I don't know, this is from Speed Test, I guess, and there's another company over here. I'm going to give them credit. But long story short, if you look here, this blue here is going to be the iPhone 16 family, and the iPhone 17 is this kind of orange color. So in France, look at the big difference between the iPhone basically 16 and the 17 is a major jump here of like 140 megabytes per second. If we look over here, this is the United States. We got a big jump here as well, 350 to 409. But across the whole board, you can see there's substantial jumps here in Wi-Fi speeds. Pretty crazy, right? You can see these are across all major markets. Here's India over here being the slowest. Germany, I'm surprised, was this slow, actually. Look how slow that is compared to France. That's crazy. But US is in here, Japan, UK, and Italy. If you scroll down here, this is kind of interesting too. The Pixel 10, which we just talked about, Pro leads the global Wi-Fi download speeds. So here's the Pixel Pro 10 family. 335 across, I guess, all zones. And the iPhone 17 family comes right in underneath it at 329. And then obviously we get some other things in here. Galaxy's way down here. And then the iPhone 16 was way down here. You can see it. So look at that jump. They jumped up from here to here and bypassing all these other companies. So it's gotten quite a bit faster. Now, I don't think you're going to notice too much of that. I mean, probably because 200 and something, is going to be fast enough. And depending on what you're doing. But still, it's something to note and maybe another reason to get you to upgrade. Okay, this next article got me really excited until I read the fine print, but it might be coming in the near future. And it makes a lot of sense. Look over here, Mac Rumors. It says iOS 26.2 will let some iPhone users replace Siri with a third-party assistant, and then it got updated. In iOS 26.2 Beta 3, Apple's laying the groundwork for a future option that will let iPhone users in Japan choose a different default voice assistant. Right now, if you press and hold the gesture button on the side of the button, it activates Siri. But now, Japan has put in a law where they're making Apple give them the option. So if you can imagine, if you click that button, the gesture button, you can actually open up ChatGPT, Google Assistant, things like that. That's pretty crazy, and Apple has to do it for Japan. So I read through the whole article. It's coming in Japan 100%. They say that the EU is going to probably be next. And then, once those two things fall, won't it come to America too? It makes a lot of sense because obviously Apple's behind in AI right now. They're kind of using Google anyway coming up here shortly. So I don't see why this is a big thing. You can probably program it anyway if you really wanted to. But I guess it's going to come in a stock feature where you can actually choose the AI assistant. And I guess it's more because of regulations in those countries. They're making them do it. So hopefully that comes to the United States so we have our choice by pressing that button. And we can kind of move on just like the other countries. Okay, this next article I thought was really cool, and it's kind of what I think is a good idea, and maybe not. You guys tell me what you think. I was kind of thinking about it. I went back and forth. Right over here, Apple Insider. Apple's future iPhone cases could add touch surfaces beyond the screen. And you can see some cases here. These are the cheap ones. These don't obviously have them. So we kind of went down here. Apple is said to be working on cases that add extra touch controls to the iPhone so that you could do things like manage music playback without needing to touch the screen. Smartphone users will be familiar with the screen and side buttons as the main way to interact with their devices using touch alone. However, using specifically created accessories, this could expand touch control in other areas of the iPhone experience. So if you imagine, Apple's looking to make their phones a lot cleaner, right? Less buttons. They don't want things like that all around. But if they put it into the case, that could fix this, all right? So people that didn't want all that stuff wouldn't put a case on it. If you wanted to buy the Apple case, it would have some special buttons on it that would actually allow you to do certain stuff. This is what they're thinking. Now, I don't know if that's a great idea or not. The more I think about it, I'm like, it seems like a good idea, but then again, just put it on the phone, all right? Tell me what you think. Would this be good or not? I'm just curious what everyone thinks out there. If you read the article, you can go on to, Apple Insider and read the whole article. They gave a whole bunch of different examples for this, but you could even use your finger to sign things almost like a touchpad. But how would it work? Would it work well enough? And how much would it cost? And then that's the bottom line. Okay, we're going to wrap up today's episode. Cheers. Just remember, I'm doing a whole bunch of the Black Friday specials next week. I maybe one or two videos. I don't know. I just did one if you want to check out that one. So definitely stay tuned for that. Subscribe for it. This Apple news was kind of a really quick one. Like I said, I apologize for it. We'll do a better one next week, and we will talk to you soon. Peace.